Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Farming Today This Week podcast. I'm Kaz Graham, and in this edition, as the government promises extra money to support farmers through climate change, it's been another week when extreme hot, dry weather is making life difficult for UK agriculture. Coming up, how salad pickers are keeping out of the heat.
You have to get people in while it's cooler and darker. In the morning, they're cutting with headsets on, so they've got head torches so they can see what they're doing. We bring them in when it's cooler, and then back out again before it gets too hot.
Drought and soaring temperatures spell disaster for Brassica growers.
The words that I would use, that I keep hearing from growers, are words like crisis, words like desperate. It's not being overplayed. This is as bad as it can get.
And battling bluetongue, the farmers on the sharp end of this livestock disease.
The last week, I dreaded going out in the morning because I just what am I going to find? It's been horrible.
And we've got more on the escalating bluetongue outbreak a little later. First, though, this summer marks the end of an era for the Thompson family and their berry farm at Blairgowrie in Perthshire, one of Scotland's most important soft fruit growing areas. The Thompsons have decided to end commercial production because they say that the business is no longer economically viable. And for their very last cherry harvest, they invited the public to come along and pick their own, with the proceeds going to charities. Kathleen Carragher joined some eager cherry pickers and the farm's owner, Peter Thompson, on what was a bittersweet occasion.
So one of these, so it's 1 kilo per person. Okay.
That's perfect.
And you can donate by cash or by QR code.
Peter, you're having a busy morning here. Lots of people registering and picking cherries.
We went slightly viral on social media. We did get 400,000 hits apparently on TikTok. Yes, they're certainly going to be in the high hundreds here today.
Here's a basket for you. Thank you. Basket for you.
Why have you decided to end commercial production?
Cherries are very difficult because you need a lot of people in March to prune them and put tunnels over them, and then not very many people until the end of July when you want to pick them. And because of the complexities of employing labour just now, minimum wage plus all the other costs of pensions and national insurance, it's much more expensive to employ the labour here.
We were up here on holiday, so we decided to come along, and we've got some kids with us and stuff like that. And it would be an absolute disgrace to see this stuff go to waste.
Our biggest crop was blueberries, and the blueberry price was cut more than in half by imports from Peru and the southern hemisphere when they developed new blueberries that didn't need a frost.
This one's a bit odd that you need a frost for blueberries and other berries.
Yes, most soft fruits need a chill over the winter, but the geneticists on a lot of the crops have bred this requirement out of them.
The farm's been in your family for really 100 years? What made this such a good area for fruit growing?
Well, at that time they were all grown in the soil and they were grown in the open, so you needed the right combination of enough rain for them to grow, fairly light soils so they didn't get waterlogged, but dry enough so that you could pick them. Blairgowrie happened to be the sweet spot. Of course now they tend to be grown in polytunnels, so you can have as much rain as you want, and they're usually grown in coir out of the soil, so it doesn't matter for the soil, so they're grown all over the country now.
Presumably some of the pressures on your business, labour and foreign competition, that's affecting other farms around here as well?
It is, and quite a few have gone out of business. You will find that it's the very large ones which are, they've grown beyond family farms. They're really all agri-businesses, and they're the ones that are succeeding.
Maybe need to put that one back. I'll need to grow a bit more.
So yeah, there's something broken there if a place like this growing, I mean, look at them, they're amazing, they're beautiful. If they can't make a profit out of their crop, it's heartbreaking really.
And that report was from Kathleen Carragher. Now, vitamin B12 is essential for our diets. It's found in meat, fish, eggs and dairy products, but not in plants, or not until now, that is. Scientists have developed a way of fortifying pea shoots with B12, and they hope to get them into supermarket salad bags in the next year or two. After successful trials, agri-tech company Let Us Grow and the John Innes Centre believe that it could work for other crops too. B12 is very expensive, but Jack Farmer, who's the Chief Scientific Officer with Lettuce Grow, says that they've developed an extremely efficient way of getting it into the pea shoots. Well, we've been talking about salad all this week on Farming Today, so we sent our reporter Rebecca Rooney to their R&D farm in Bristol to find out more.
So we're going to go into a room that is full of a luminous pink light.
This is one of our R&D test chambers. This is where we prototype and test our aeroponic systems. This one here in particular is growing spinach right now, but in the B12 fortification trial we would have been growing pea shoots.
What's aeroponics?
It's basically a method for watering plants. We pipe the water and nutrients to their roots, but then instead of saturating those crops like you would in a hydroponic system, which is kind of growing without soil, we use high-frequency sound waves to turn that into a mist. You can actually hear the trickling water in there. So as you can see here, there's a kind of a cloud enveloping those roots.
So you've just lifted up this tray of spinach. You can see the matted roots, but when you lift it up, it looks like dry ice. There's mist everywhere.
And you can see these really kind of fluffy lateral roots here. It's almost like a cloud coming out of the roots themselves. That's basically the plant's response to this mist, really high oxygen environment. And it's a really efficient way of getting water and nutrients to a crop. It acts as basically a big inhaler. So a very small amount of B12 applied as part of the fertilizer basically will spread really efficiently throughout all those different plants. And it's much more efficient than diluting it into a big tank of water. So that's why aeroponics is so interesting. You can basically get a very small amount of expensive B12 and apply it to a load of salads in a way that actually makes commercial sense.
Professor Anthony Dodd and Dr. Bethany Aldridge led the project for the John Innes Centre.
The plants look the same. To our knowledge, they taste the same, and it doesn't change the shelf life. But they do contain the recommended daily allowance of vitamin B12.
If you're fortifying a food like this, do you have to get a licence to do that? What are the regulations around it?
The plants are not fortified through a genetic modification process. Instead, we're using different kinds of growing technology to enable the plants to accumulate the vitamin B12. So the product that we've developed doesn't involve any restrictions or regulations related to genetically modified or gene-edited food products.
Will this really be economically viable?
To fortify a portion of pea shoots that someone might consume as part of, a nutritious diet would cost less than a penny. So we're trying to look at that in terms of what's the cost of what we might be able to do with plants to diversify the ways in which we can get B12 into our diets as part of natural food consumption versus something like the cost of a B12 supplement tablet, which is around that benchmark. But this method could be incredibly commercially versatile because it could be put into cheaper systems, glass houses being the major one here.
Dr. Bethany Eldridge from the John Innes Centre. Well, for salad growers, the good news is that the hot weather means demand is up. The not so good news is that if it's too hot, the crops don't like it, and nor do the pickers. I've been to Grow Well Salads near Tarleton in Lancashire. It's a family business which grows lettuce, cress and pea shoots in glass houses for the wholesale market. Pam Fletcher showed me round.
This is one of our little gem greenhouses. As you can feel, it's quite warm in here today.
What kind of temperatures does it get up to in these glass houses?
It can get up to the late 30s on a bad day. We do have fans that will run to circulate the air, and obviously we have our vents as high as they will go.
I guess they like this heat, do they?
They certainly grow fast in it, but they don't always like it.
Can we get down and have a look at what are these lettuces?
Of course we can. So I'll just pick one out to show you there. That's your nice heart coming in the middle. And these are the seed leaves at the bottom. So those will be cut off properly when we harvest. We're just trying to keep it as nice and fresh as we possibly can in these conditions.
What can you do to mitigate against that heat? You've got fans in here. What else do you do?
Yeah, that's really it. We have looked at painting the roof with whitewash, but then if you end up with a wet summer, then it can be a bit dark and they don't heart up enough.
How long will it take to grow a lettuce? And do they grow much quicker in this heat?
They certainly do. Usually at this time of year, you'd be looking at 4 weeks. These are under 4 weeks turnaround at the moment.
It's really quiet in here at this time of day. And part of that, I guess, is because you don't want your staff working in this heat.
You have to get people in while it's cooler and darker. In the morning, they're cutting with headsets on. So they've got head torches so they can see what they're doing. We bring them in when it's cooler and then we can get them into the pack house and then back out again before it gets too hot.
And down into a different glass house. And we're just walking past the crest. It's like a manicured lawn, isn't it, this crest?
It really is. We try and keep it nice and flat, so it looks nice and even when you pack it in the boxes that way.
Where does it all go? Who buys cress?
It goes to the wholesale markets, and then from there it usually goes into sandwich manufacturers, bakeries who are making sandwiches, restaurants, schools, hospitals, those sort of places.
And does it care about the heat? Cress is one of those things that everybody grows at school when they're about 6, don't they?
That's right.
Is it easy to grow?
It's fairly easy to grow. Again, it's growing very fast at the moment. It's a Brassica, so it is fairly forgiving in the heat. We're doing what we can to keep the heat off so it doesn't wilt too much.
That's Pam Fletcher in Lancashire. Well, cress is a mini Brassica, often grown commercially in glass houses. But out in the fields, growers of brassicas like brocolli and cauliflower say that their sector is in crisis because of the drought and the extreme heat. Phil Collins is a brassica grower in Wiltshire, and he's been showing BBC West's Dave Harvey his crop.
This was 4,500 cauliflower here, which have just basically cooked. They didn't form properly because of the lack of water and it was just too hot.
I can see it's brown, but what's that look like to you as a seasoned grower?
Loss. It's about the only thing I can say. I've been growing 60 years and my father grew before, but I could never see it being as bad as this.
That's farmer Phil Collins. John Walgate is CEO of the British Growers Association, which represents the horticulture and fresh produce sector.
The words that I would use, that I keep hearing from growers, are words like crisis, words like desperate. It's not being overplayed. This is as bad as it can get. And that's particular for brassica growers because a lot of brassicas are not irrigated. They're seeing this continued hot, dry weather without any rainfall, and they're not getting any water.
And what's it doing to crops?
I mean, it's stopping them from growing. They're becoming dormant in the ground. What people don't probably realise about crops like brassicas is that it's not, you don't just grow it and harvest it all at one point. They're planting it so that it will mature and be ready for picking weekly throughout the season. So if you've got stop-start temperature, plants will start to grow and then they'll stop. But ultimately, if there's no moisture, then they're not going to grow at all. We definitely are going to see smaller sizes, different shapes, discoloration. Consumers are going to have to get used to that.
How much is all of this costing farmers?
It is really hurting. Margins are very thin in fresh produce anyway. We've already seen growers get hit by increase from the conflict in the Middle East with fuel and fertilizer costs. So yeah, this is really bad. If you've got a yield loss of up to 50%, well, that's that on your cost base.
I know you've had conversations with retailers. I mean, will they take discoloured veg?
Retailers are supportive, and if we don't widen the specifications for fresh produce at the moment, we are going to see gaps on shelf. So, we don't really have any choice. And we are starting to see, and we will see, if you're not going to have gaps on shelf, then you're going to see imported product. And that is now happening.
And will the price go up for the consumer?
Potentially, yes. I guess it depends on the attitude of the retailer, and it depends on how much product can be sourced from abroad. We know that the drought is not just affecting the UK, it's right across Europe, so there will be shortages elsewhere as well.
What needs to happen to make brassica production more resilient?
Well, we need to manage our water better. It's not that we're short of water in the UK, we're just not very good at capturing it and using it. Definitely in Lincolnshire last year, we had average rainfall over the year, but most of it was at the start of the year and the end of the year and nothing in the summer. Talking to one of our Brassica growers in Cornwall, it's only a few months ago, we were talking about 55 days of consecutive rain. So we're not without that water. We just need to do a better job of collecting it in on-farm reservoirs and using it when we need it.
John Walgate from the British Growers Association. Well, later today, the Prime Minister and the Farming Minister are expected to meet farmers in the southwest and announce a new support package in response to the ongoing drought conditions in most of England. Sally Challoner has the details.
Farmers who've suffered the driest July on record should not carry the risk of a changing climate alone. That's what the Prime Minister's expected to say as he announces a £65 million package to help farmers in England. The money, which comes from Defra's existing farming budget, is meant to help manage the impact of drought and heat waves, which have had a severe impact on crops and led to falling yields. Andy Burnham and the Farming Minister, Stephen Morgan, are due to meet farmers in the southwest of England this afternoon, a region which is usually lush and green, but where pasture is now dried up and livestock farmers are battling an outbreak of bluetongue disease, which is badly affecting sheep in the area. The Prime Minister says he understands the worry that comes with lower income, higher costs and no rain in the forecast. And he says the ability to grow our own food is national security, and he'll treat it that way. The government says it's putting more money towards farm support, an extra £50 million for this year's Sustainable Farming Incentive budget. That's the agri-environmental scheme which pays farmers in England to improve the environment. In addition, there'll be more flexibility in environmental schemes to help farmers who are affected by drought. The government will offer up to £15 million for on-farm reservoirs, enabling farmers to store water in the winter, which they can then use in the summer. It's also drawn up measures to make it easier to build reservoirs, and on Monday an updated national planning policy framework will be published. That'll include updated planning guidance, reducing what it refers to as unnecessary barriers. In addition, the government says farmers will get improved access to water during drought, with support from the Environment Agency and simpler water access arrangements.
That's Sally Challoner, and we'll have more on that for you in Monday's Farming Today. Livestock farmers aren't just dealing with the impacts of drought and heat waves. They're battling an outbreak of bluetongue, a disease which affects cattle and sheep, but not humans. The southwest of England is dealing with hundreds of cases, mostly in sheep, in Devon, Cornwall and Somerset. But the disease is spreading. There have now been more than 360 cases in England, 9 in Wales, and for the first time ever, a couple of cases in Scotland. And cases means affected farms. And each farm could have multiple animals with the disease. It's spread by midges and can cause infertility, abortions and death. Well, farmers are already struggling to feed their stock as grass has stopped growing and the bluetongue outbreak is piling on more pressure. A vaccine is available, but demand is high and some vets say that they're running out. Stephen Dennis is a livestock farmer in mid-Devon and he's also the regional manager for the Farming Community Network, which has a 24-hour helpline and supports farming families through difficult times.
We've got some big numbers that are being affected, certainly for those that haven't vaccinated earlier on in the year. It's been extremely devastating. And that's on top of the fodder situation. No grass. Animals are probably in a poorer condition than what they would normally would because of the lack of grass. So that's probably not helping with the issues around recovery.
And can people get the vaccine? Have vets got the vaccine?
Short answer to that is no. Thursday last week, I think we started to hear some horror stories that people were wanting to use vaccine or not, and they were unable to get it. Nearly all the vets in the southwest weren't sure when they could get some in. Hopefully it will be in within the next 2 weeks, but that's a long time when you're treating animals and wanting to vaccinate to try and stave off the future disease in the flock.
What impact is this having on the mental health of those farmers who are involved?
the extra time it's taking for feeding animals anyway because of the lack of grass is one thing. The extra strain of caring for these animals, the injection, the making sure they're okay, doing this 3 or 4 times a day, if you've got 30 or 40 animals like it takes a considerable time. And I think what we're seeing is that farmers are exhausted. The heat's not helping. A lot of people feel at the end of their tether, I think, is what you would say.
Stephen Dennis from the Farming Community Network. Defra told us in a statement, "We recognise this is an incredibly difficult time for animal keepers who are on the front line of this disease, and we are monitoring the situation closely. We continue to work with industry and are putting processes in place to bring in additional vaccine supplies to help farmers to protect their livestock." One of those farmers who's lost animals to the disease is Jerry Sanders Carr. Sarah Swadling went to meet him on his farm just south of Exeter.
They're all seeking shade under the trees in the hedge line there. The grass is really crispy.
Yeah, and this is probably the greenest bit we've got. Yeah, they've been on winter rations for over a month now. But yeah, they're still in reasonable shape. And I think that's helped with the bluetongue situation where they've been in reasonable fettle and they can fight the infection a little bit better. They're all off.
They're all off. We've disturbed them slightly and they're cantering off across the field.
A week ago, if we'd been out here, they wouldn't have moved like that. They were sluggish, they weren't interested in moving, whereas now, you'd struggle to catch them now. We are on the right side of it now, thank God.
What was the timeline then of bluetongue for you?
I think it arrived here probably 3 weeks ago. It was just the odd ewe that was off colour and the odd ewe that was dying, which we put down to maybe homuncus or heat stress, on just the stress of drought. And we weren't seeing the classic, what everyone was thinking of was drooling mouths and snotty noses. But then it became very obvious. One morning we found a ewe with the classic standing there with drooling mouth, and that was it, right, we've got it. So we then vaccinated, so that'll be 2 weeks ago.
When you were starting to see symptoms, that was at a point when the confirmed cases were not yet in this area?
No, exactly. It was all North Devon, North Cornwall. And so we were all looking at the map, going, it's all up there. The prevailing wind is blowing to them from us. And I had ordered the vaccine. So luckily the vaccine turned up relatively quick and we just got on and vaccinated.
But you had sheep that fell sick with bluetongue after you'd vaccinated, not because the vaccine wasn't working, just to be clear, but just because they'd probably been incubating it.
Exactly, yeah. My vet were very clear. They're saying don't worry about vaccinating while there's illness in the flock. Just get on and vaccinate because you're going to get some cover relatively quickly.
Are you starting to see that the vaccine is making a difference?
Oh, 100%, yeah. A week ago I was treating 40 animals a day. I've treated 1 today. Yes, sure, the manufacturers say 3 weeks for full immunity, but we're definitely seeing a positive impact now.
How has it been in terms of the pressure that it's heaped on your shoulders?
Normally this time of year, going around the ewes, they're all settled, they've all been weaned, and they're not doing much, they're just enjoying life. It was always a pleasure to go around in the morning and see the sheep. The last week, I dreaded going out in the morning because I just like, what am I going to find? And then the effort of catching all those sheep and treating them and jabbing them. So no, it's been horrible. But I will also say that there's been huge support. There's been lots of farmers. We were all talking to each other, whether it be via WhatsApp or we're ringing each other. And that's been really good.
In the end, how many sheep did you lose that either died or you had to put down?
I think so far it's been about 35. The ewe flock is about 450, so not quite 10%. In terms of treatment, we've treated way over 200.
How much do you think it's cost you in lost stock, in disposing of stock that has died, in vaccination, in medicines?
It's close to £10,000 now. I think the big hit is the loss in breeding stock. I don't know what those replacement costs are going to be yet. And I don't know what the impact is going to be on lambing and future income. Talking to the vets, there's potential that the rams are going to be infertile between 2, maybe up to 3 months. And you can't pick up that infertility in a normal fertility test. I sell breeding rams as well, and I can't honestly sell rams at the moment because I don't know if they're fertile. It's not fair on my customers. Yeah, I lamb in the middle of February, so my rams have actually got a little bit of time to recover, so we're hoping they will be okay.
That's Jerry Sanders-Carr with our reporter Sarah Swadling. And that is Farming Today this week. I'm Kaz Graham, the producer is Rebecca Rooney, and the programme is produced by BBC Audio in Bristol.